Let's get back over to the kitchen now and check in with Judi Gallagher, who is creating something delicious for us today. It already smells terrific in the kitchen.
Well, Scott, I think everybody will like this recipe because it's easy enough, but it has that warm, hearty feel. So this is one of those dishes that you can use while you're watching a World Series game or tailgating, or something I might pick for the night before Thanksgiving because it's easy enough and it's not going to be turkey and gravy. I am making a sausage and cannelloni bean ragu. You can either serve that on pasta or we're going to do a creamy Parmesan polenta using instant polenta. So this is one of those dishes that won't take you a long time. Just let it all simmer and the flavor even gets better the next day. So stay with me throughout the hour as we bring you delicious tastes from an Italian kitchen I think you're going to really enjoy. So the first thing you want to do is you want to start cooking with your bulk sausage. I prefer a mix of both hot and sweet Italian sausage. If you can't find it in bulk, it's no problem, but do break it off the link so you can just take off the casing and it will give you a chance to break it down. So you're going to cook it in a large saucepan. You know, this is halfway in between a fry pan and a saucepan. You want to get the higher edges so later on when we add in the diced tomatoes, it won't overflow. But it's going to simmer differently than, say, a traditional spaghetti and meatball sauce. So we're going to cook this for about 3-4 minutes just to get the pink out of the sausage because it's going to go back in. So while this is starting to break down, I've got a pan of 3 cups of water and I'm going to bring this up to high. What you want to do is we're going to use an instant polenta, and giving choices when you're having dinner, something like this. I also last night made something similar, but I used the zucchini noodles, the spiralizer instead of pasta. I do have some pappardelle pasta already cooked up. I like to use pappardelle because it's those thick, wide noodles, and I think it really holds well with this. So what we're going to do when most of the sausage is cooked, we're going to just take it out, put it in a bowl, and there'll be a little bit of brown on the bottom, which is exactly what we want because we'll get to that in a minute. Put the pan back on, raise the heat as needed. Take a good quality olive oil, give that a little splash, and then we're going to saute 1 chopped onion. Okay, I love onions. I know some people don't. You can omit it, but I'd go a little bit heavier on the garlic if you're going to omit the onions. So we're going to simmer down the onions about 3 to 4 minutes. Don't let them brown. We want that translucent, so almost like a clear phase. Just to speed this up for TV, I'm going to go ahead and do the next step, which would be to add the garlic. 2 to 3 cloves of minced fresh garlic, never the jar because it really is just bitter. You want to do things that are fresh. You can buy peeled garlic at like Yoder's Produce Market or the Fresh Market that's already in a container, and that makes your life easier if you want, but truly it's easy enough. Let's let that simmer just a little bit. When we come back, we're going to add the sausage back in, do some tricks and deglaze that pan, and then we'll get started on the creamy polenta. It's easy, it's delicious, and I'll keep you feeling warm all over. Okay, so here we go. Just for time's sake, I re-added the sausage, but normally I just keep it to the onions and garlic. Now we're going to deglaze. Here's what I like about getting half bottles of wine. They may be a little more expensive, but if you're only using them for cooking, they're perfect and you can stick them in the refrigerator after. We're going to deglaze the pan so that gets all those little brown bits that the sausage created and a little bit of the onion. So we're going to just stir that around for a little bit, let the wine start to reduce. But these little smaller bottles are just such a really convenient way. If, like I said, if you don't drink a lot of wine, but you want to use a decent wine. So that's starting to reduce. Now we're going to add a full teaspoon, but I do a heaping teaspoon of tomato paste. This is going to give it some thickness, the tomato paste, and some depth of the flavor. Because you use tomato paste when you're not using a jarred sauce. So like if you're making your sauce straight from plum tomatoes in this season, and before long we'll be into the Florida tomatoes, which will be good. So we'll get those delicious aromas. So you can see already in the base of the pan, it's starting to thicken. The wine's cooking down. This is perfect. So now what we're going to do, we're going to need a can of diced tomatoes. You don't need any other seasoning in it like basil or anything like that, because I'd rather you use fresh herbs, okay? So we're going to let this simmer down, and then we're going to add a can of drained, rinsed cannelloni beans. Now you really want to drain these beans because they're too starchy in the can. You don't want that syrup to go in it. As much crushed red pepper, usually a pinch is good because we have the hot sausage mixed in with the sweet. Red pepper grows in strength the longer it's in, so by the next day, you might watch out. You're going to let that simmer for about an hour, and then you're going to get this thick, luscious ragu. So now let's talk about polenta. You can use the instant polenta, which is really easy to work with. I have 2 cups water, 1 cup of chicken stock. I'm going to just continue to stir it so it doesn't have bumps or lumps. And in 3 minutes, this is going to be done. I'm going to add a little plain yogurt and some Parmesan cheese, and we have creamy polenta. And the plain yogurt's going to keep it just a little creamier without having to pour in a lot of heavy cream. So when I come back, I think it's ready to plate, and we'll give John Scalzi a taste. I think he'll like this one.
We are back in the kitchen, and oh, really? Thank you. I won't say no.
It's hot. So you have that creamy Parmesan polenta. I put in some fresh diced rosemary on it and a little extra Parmesan. And then the sausage, both hot and sweet ragu, some cannelloni beans in there, deglazed with wine, and I think we got a warm, cool supper.
That is a very interesting dish, because I never would have thought of putting polenta and a bolognese together. It is amazing.
I never would have thought about it. I read an article, and then I started using polenta a little bit more. So there you go. You can go on mysuncoast.com, get that recipe. Just click on the dining page, and don't forget to enter our contest to win a $50 dining gift certificate.
I'm just going to eat. Do you mind?
Okay, you eat. I'll send it back to Scott.
All right. Thank you both.